Revolution of military affairs is a concept, which is this concept is an outgrowth, the way of thinking the US military is doing strategy in war. This is caused by the development of increasingly sophisticated technology to make the thought that US military issues when it's very helpful in setting their strategy. In the revolution, military affairs is no need to concern about the number of opponents and the ability of the enemy, as the military use of the newest technology that can make the opposing enemy force equally balanced, even more powerful, although not using much military. In the revolution in military affairs that has development, land power, sea power, and air power, the idea US when it makes the strength in three parts in because he saw the potential enemies taking from all three parts of this very big change. Therefore, we'll certainly need a lot of the military who serve the three places. The idea of US using technology, the leadless, and the organization will allow them to watch and set the strategy more mature and less need for future soldiers.
A tactic which the states with a light military force will won an open war for the sake of the victory, where the weak state they will use the civil power and choose to avoid an open warfare. Asymmetric is an optional strategy drawn up by those who colonize US conventional military capabilities so that they perform a strategy called asymmetric. Asymmetric warfare relies more on the strength of civil society or the non-conventional force. The weaker power serves to exploit the weakness of the strong power, sometimes superpower to focus on unconventional warfare, make them don't pay attention to the surrounding circumstances, thus giving the opportunities to the poor countries to use strategy in order to offset the strong enemy force. The application of asymmetric war has been conducted since 1970s when the Vietnam War. After war ended, US started trying to prepare a fighting war, especially in a war that is irregular, so they wouldn't suffer another defeat. The defeat suffered by the US because they underestimate the nature of the convention of war, because they are too focused on insurgents. US parties battle to show their military strength, where the Vietnam actually built a strategy to exploit the geographical conditions surrounding the Bill Trap and Anzuna Road. Vietnam tactic kept a pinprick tactic. First, they used a sabotage, like a road cutting, damage to vehicles, and opposition. Second, they used some traps, like a homemade bombs, tripwires, and punji stick. The punji stick will be placed in areas likely to be placed struck by enemy troops. The presence of punji sticks may be camouflaged by a natural undergrowth, crops, grass, brush, or a similar material. Third, they use a camouflage, like a local vegetation, holes, and tunnels. Viet Cong built a tunnels called rat tunnels. The tunnels were used by the Viet Cong soldiers as a hiding spot during the combat, as well as a serving communication and supply roads, hospital, food, and the weapon chest and living quarters for numerous North of Vietnam fighters.
Fourth-generation warfare is conflict characterized by a blurring of the line between war and political combatants and civilians. Fourth-generation warfare has often involved an insurgent group or other violent non-state actor trying to implement their own government or establishing an old government over the current ruling power. Before the development of fourth generation divide into the third generation, the first generation tactic of line and column which developed in the age of the smoothbore musket. The first generation consisted of tightly ordered soldiers with top-down discipline. These troops will fight in the close order and advance slowly. This began to change as the battlefield changed. Old line and column tactics are now considered suicidal as the bow and arrow were put into the rifle and machine gun. The second generation tactic of line fire and movement with reliance on indirect fire. This type of warfare can be seen in the early stage of World War I, where there was still strict adherence to drill and discipline of formation and uniform. However, there remained a dependency on artillery and firepower to break the stalemate and move toward a pitched battle. The third generation tactic in infiltration to bypass and collapse the enemy combat forces rather than seeking to close with destroy them and defense in depth. The third generation military seeks to bypass the enemy and attack his rear forward, such as the tactic used by German and Storm in World War I against the British and French in order to break the trench warfare stalemate. Example of third generation is World War II.
Information operation. A key element in the discussion of symmetric warfare focus on what were unhelpful known as information operation. Over the years, information has been improved, and the military can use the data from information to know what strategy they can use. The term was unhelpful because it referred to a series of related but distinctive activities, some concerned with the flow of information and others with its content. Its potential range was indicated by an official U.S. publication, which asserted as a goal achieving and maintaining information superiority for the U.S. and its allies.